Gentlemen, and welcome to the October 16th, 2018 meeting of the Milton Conservation Commission. As a matter of formality, we have got a couple of rules. One is that we welcome anyone to speak, to ask questions, make comments, but we do ask that you identify yourself so our magic recorder can pick up your name. The second matter of formality is that we introduce ourselves.
Judith Darrell Kemp.
And my name is John Kiernan.
Hans Van Lingen.
And Steve Ivas, agent for the commission.
Third factor that we should address as well is that tonight we've got 14 items on the agenda, but 7 of them are going to be continued. And if you're in the audience waiting, it's important that you know which ones are going to be continued so that you don't wait unnecessarily until the end. So the first item on the agenda is an informational presentation by the Ocean River Institute. And they have asked to defer that until November because the speaker couldn't attend tonight. Number 3 on the agenda is the informational presentation by the Lower Estates. And they have asked to continue that matter for a future date. As at this stage, we don't have a new date for it. Number 5 on the agenda is a notice of intent at 691 711 Randolph Avenue. That's the 40B project that is currently pending before the Massachusetts Housing Appeals Board. There's an appeal involved in that, and that is still pending, so we don't know yet. And just bring it right on you. We introduced ourselves. Ingrid, could you also?
Ingrid Baby.
And next.
Sorry I'm late.
Okay, not a problem. We just started. Number 6 on the agenda will also be continued. That is number 153 Hillside Street. That will be continued to the November meeting. Number 7 on the agenda is notice of intent for 76 Cliff Road. They have asked for continuance until November as well. Number 11 on the agenda is the request for a certificate of compliance at 333 Hillside Street. That will be continued, I don't know when. Do you know when?
I do not. Jim, do you know when?
No one knows.
We asked for November, but Jim still has issues with the planning board that we're dealing with.
Oh, on the location of the driveway. All
And
right.
you still have issues with wetland plantings?
Yes,
That's correct.
he's dealing with Verona.
All right, just for tracking purposes, let's put that on for the November meeting as well.
Yep.
And then the last one to be continued is 1424 through 1452 Canton Avenue. That's the Eustis Estate, and that's a planting plan, and they didn't have time to plant the trees. That's the new driveway going into the
I was gonna
estate.
ask what the location was.
It is.
Oh, okay. And we talked about that a while back.
We did, and
Yeah.
I don't think they had time to do the planting. We have a planting plan, we did approve it, but since it's not in place yet, we're gonna continue that until the June meeting.
Yes.
And
that
that'll
makes
give
sense.
them a chance to plant it, and we can go out and take a look and make sure that everything is stabilized. And I think that's all we have for continuances. So, if you are here for those reasons, you know that it's been continued and you don't need to await the hearing. So having said all that, we'll go back to the beginning of the agenda, and this is an informational session regarding the demolition plans for the Bay State Paper Mill, Truman Highway. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tony Caruso. I'm one of the co-owners of the property. Ken Mackin, my partner.
Yeah, so technically,
I'm the
it's
co-owner.
Milton Falls LLC owns it, and we represent Milton Group, Inc., which is the manager for Milton Falls, Inc.
And I have with me our site engineer and our demolition contractor, Ron, and this is Mr. Kirby. The purpose of tonight is, just like was said, informal. We'd like to present to you our plans and get some feedback from you. And then we'll move on to the next step and submit a formal NOI.
Right, it helps us a lot. These informational sessions, great idea, so we appreciate and thank you for coming in.
And they help us too, so.
Thank you.
Just a few words, and I'll turn it over to our site engineer. This is the site, runs along Truman Highway, Truman Parkway,
Move
I
it
guess.
over there just a little bit. So
Over this way
once
here.
you can see. Yeah, that's probably better. Thanks.
Okay. We were approached by the town attorney as well as the building commissioner. There's been a couple of safety issues. The buildings are decrepit. It's the old Bay State paper mill. There's been a couple of fires there over the last 2 or 3 years. And we walked the site with Mr. Thorndike and the attorney, and we've been in communication with through emails. So they're anxious for us to get the buildings that are unsafe down to the ground, which is why we're here. It will be all the buildings on site except for this one building, and I'll let our engineer explain this, what's happening. This is a poured concrete building. The rest is a train shed with a lot of unsafe sides and roof and flooring. And we've got a couple of tanks and lagoons here that have to come out. I'm going to turn it over to him and let him do the details. He's got some photos to show you, and you'll get a good hand on feedback.
Can I ask you a question before we shift? Who owns the bridge?
That's owned by DCR.
Okay, all right.
We have riparian rights. We also have access rights to cross over the pedestrian bridge.
It's actually a dam, you know that, right?
Yes.
It's a dam, yeah.
But I also know that when you look through the grate.
Yeah, a little bit scary. Dogs won't go on it, by the way.
John, where's the bridge
So-
you're talking about? Where is that?
Right here, right here. This overpass is no longer there. That was removed with
Okay.
the demolition of the portion of the mill across the street in Boston.
So
Okay.
DCR owns
This is
both the
what's
bridge
there
and
now.
the dam, to be clear?
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
yeah, the pedestrian way is on top of the dam.
Okay.
Does the bike path go down this far? I think it
does not.
does.
It does not.
Oh, it does not?
It's
It does go on to
Goes on
Truman, but
Okay.
not through the property.
Okay, okay.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no problem. Please, if you have any questions, speak up. We're happy to answer. So the mill was active until, it was 2005, right?
Right.
And as Tony mentioned, there's a number of structures associated with the complex. The primary structure here is the, it's just brick and metal. It's got some asbestos on the roof and on the siding. That's going to be the first phase of demolition of the site would be to remove that because that's a much more surgical process than, wholesale demolition of some of the structures. This is
Can I
a.
ask a question before you move on? Asbestos in the roof, it kind of rings a bell with us. How do you get your equipment in? I know we had an issue a few years ago when there was a development project on the height of the underpass. Is that going to be an issue in terms of getting your trucks in and out?
So there's one way in, one way out. There's a grade crossing here, which will be used initially to gain access to the site and bring the equipment onto the site.
Okay.
And obviously there'll be flaggers and everyone else there when that's all happening. Once the equipment is on the site, there will be, when we get to the more large scale demolition, there's a tunnel here that goes under the tracks. And so the idea is to use some smaller bobcats and things like that to make many trips as opposed to, several larger trips, many smaller trips, to get the material to a stockpile area here. From here, once the pile becomes big enough and it makes sense and it's efficient, we'll get the dump trucks in here to load the material up onto the trucks and then they'll exit through Truman Highway. So that's the plan for that. And Ron, the demolition expert over there, he's looked at this and walked the site and has a pretty good idea of what he needs to do. So that's the plan. Trying to minimize the crossing the active tracks, get everything on site, establish a staging area, do the demolition, stockpile here with small machinery to the extent we can, and then remove the material from the site there.
So, a couple general questions. Environmental site conditions, site assessment, that sort of stuff. Are there any DEP 21E related aspects related to?
This property, when we purchased it in 2005, we did have the 21E formed on the site. We also submitted that to Mass Development when we purchased a BRAC insurance policy, so we would have been ineligible without that, so there were no environmental contamination issues on the site.
So no historical?
None.
Okay.
The site has principally been used as a water treatment facility. In its heyday, it would pump out 2 million gallons of water a day from the Neponset River. It would store it in this above-ground aeration basin, this concrete-lined man-made lagoon. It would then pump it through a pedestrian two-story bridge onto the Hyde Park side where there were 2 large paper presses. So when the paper mill ceased, initially in 1992, they did away with that, and they did a separate arrangement with Boston Water and Sewer just to use water from the city of Boston. So for all intent purposes, there's been no operational use of the paper mill for more than 2 decades now.
John, we were there about, what, 15 years ago, or we were there?
I thought it was less than that.
10 years
When
ago,
was the development going to?
Yeah, so but probably 2006 is when we were last over
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good memory.
Oh, yeah, no, I remember being on the bridge.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And the second means of access was the problem with the height for the fire trucks.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
much bigger.
that's why we're using the at-grade crossing for oversized vehicles.
Okay.
What are these train tracks? I'm trying to place exactly. That's not the main, that's
That's the
not the
Fairmont
Amtrak,
line.
it's the Fairmont.
Fairmont line.
Okay.
Right, and there's some, older spurs in here that have all filled in with, multi-floor rows and other things.
And were removed when Barletter did some work on the Fairmont line. 2 years ago, they pulled up a bunch of the tracks and updated some switch signalization on the line.
There was a shed, a train shed receiving area, so the tracks go right into the building, come out the other end.
Yeah, that's where these were leading to here. So that's the train shed here. That's the primary structure that'll be removed. This is the concrete clarifier, the container that is going to stay for the moment. There's a water tank here that was never actually completed, but it has a concrete slab and some initial walls around the outside there. And then this is the concrete lined man-made lagoon that was also used as part of the water processing. So just to give you an idea of what some of this looks like, this is the view of the back of the building, of the primary train shed from the other side of the tracks. You can see the top photos looking down that way, bottom photos looking down this way. This is a view looking along the back of the building. So standing here, looking in this direction, you can see the train tracks are right over here. There's a row of trees on the MBTA land, and pretty open area that you might be able to get access to remove this siding of the building. This is sort of interior. This is the concrete clarifier here, and that's the tank, so that's sort of looking in this direction here. You'll notice on the plan that in addition to the structures, there's a lot of these passageways marked, and if you go out there, you can see, old gravel and things like that, areas that are technically previously developed or degraded riverfront area.
So one aspect to the passageway is the Commonwealth does have a right-of-way through the property in order to get to the dam itself for maintenance purposes. So under the terms of the deed, is that their legal right is to use the access point of the western area of the property, literally cross the train tracks, and then walk through it right away. For simplicity purposes, we've allowed DCR to use the underpass, so they traverse through our property to get to the dam, because they service it on a fairly regular basis from a maintenance standpoint. So we're not going to do anything that will impinge DCR's ability to access the dam and do whatever servicing. And at times when they've had to work on the bascule gates, they would drive their vehicles all the way to the dam through the property in order to bring heavy equipment.
So for the notice of intent application that we look forward to filing over the next few weeks, you can expect an updated survey. We're in the process of hiring a surveyor engineering outfit to update the survey. The Neponset River has been delineated by Epsilon Associates. The flags are still there. It was a relatively recent delineation, and I concur with that delineation. So those flags will be shown on the plan.
Do you know when the delineation took place?
About a month ago, maybe 3 weeks.
No, That was, in
Talking about the Epsilon flag?
that was April. April, this past April.
Okay, but certainly within
This
3
year.
years.
Yes,
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
The 100-year floodplain elevation will be shown on here, which is, hugs the slope that descends toward the river. It's a pretty good slope. There's a retaining wall over here that's pretty high. Of course, the 200-foot riverfront area and the buffer zones. We'll also be identifying the extent of degraded and previously developed riverfront area on the plan. The plan will have a limit of work showing the access that Ron needs for stockpiling, staging, access around the structures that will be removed. And ultimately, this is for the first step in a redevelopment plan that my clients are looking to implement. As they work through the negotiations with MBTA and DCR in terms of access and the land and things like that. So.
Well, it could be a great spot right by the river and everything.
Right.
But the dam is one of these that have the PCBs and heavy metal at the bottom and all that.
That's right, so,
Yeah.
the dam acts as an impoundment area. And so the state has punted on whether or not they're pursuing W.R. Grace and, Berkshire Hathaway and Royal Aloe, two companies I think that were identified. So presumably something will happen down the road. We've spoken with.
There are a couple of solutions, but they're expensive.
Where is Mother Brook? Do you know?
Yeah, so that's not on the plan, so that obviously is heading towards Dedham. So that would be about a mile and a half away.
Oh, it's that far, okay.
Yeah. But there are no PCBs on the property. It's all, like you've all seen the USGS reports that show the concentration levels. They're all pretty much behind the dam and the Jenkins impoundment and other areas downstream of the dam.
What's on the site besides asbestos? What have you found?
Now that's it.
It's pretty clean.
Uh-huh.
And that's because it was just a distribution hub. So up until 1974, they would literally ship all the white paper products through a two-story man-made bridge onto rail cars to points west towards Reedville Station and beyond. So when it became too expensive to do that, they expanded the facility on River Street in Hyde Park. They added a 60,000 square foot warehouse building and just used tractor trailers. In fact, one of the reasons why we look forward to working with Ron is that his company, Patriot, actually did the demolition on the Hyde Park side. So he took down a collection of 15 buildings that were about 300,000 square feet and about 1,100 feet in length. And many of those buildings were very close to the riverfront. So he's got quite a bit of experience with not only this property, but in general.
What is on the site currently? Is this just
On this side of the tracks?
vegetated?
Yeah, it's primarily forested. There's, a couple of existing paths and things like that through the woods, but it's an open wooded area.
So that curved line is the property line, or do you own more on the other side
No.
of that?
We just own to the north of the tracks, so this is owned by the Commonwealth. We have a right of way.
Oh, just the right of way through?
Both of
to
them,
access.
both of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's gonna be is that the only access in and out in terms of proposed demolition and?
Yes, as Rich had described,
Yeah.
from a disposal aspect, it's all gonna be through the underpass. To bring in all the heavy equipment, it's gonna be through the grade cross, so we'll have to make a temporary bridging to go over the tracks to bring in the excavators and larger trucks. And it was done also by, it was also done by Barletta Construction when they were doing work on the Fairmont line. That was their means to bring in all their equipment, was the same fashion.
And Ron is going to, take advantage of efficiencies that he can. For example, some of the concrete can be broken down on site to 6" minus, and this man-made concrete lagoon would be broken up. There's water in it now. Similar to like an old house foundation, you break up the concrete to allow the water to drain, and then you can backfill it with some of the clean material anyway.
So, I hate to ask this question, but when you say it's a water sediment filter basin, what was the
Right.
water source?
The Naponton River.
So, just, where's the
You know,
inlet?
Historically, it was pumped to there.
Right.
It was
Right now, it's just rainwater that's
Yeah,
accumulating.
Yeah, no, I understand that's,
Yeah.
nothing's active there, but, yeah, I'm just making
Yeah,
sure.
there's no feed from the river
Sediment,
now.
okay.
It's above the river. The elevation of the lagoon, right, is above the elevation of the river, similar to the concrete tank here.
So it was pumped from the surface
Yes.
over?
Yeah, right at the end of the dam
Yeah,
there,
that's exactly right.
There's
They
a-
would- they
there's
would
an
just
inlet
do-
pipe.
do hoses.
So there are no culverts there that have just
Right.
gone into disuse?
Exactly.
What is this here? DE,
This here?
yeah.
Oh, debris pile.
That's just a debris pile,
Staging
it's
area.
just a schematic
That's
representation
a
of.
B, not a P.
That is a D. Oh, yes, it should be.
That
know what?
was
Can
my
I see your-
mistake. I
may I
thought,
see your marker
that's
for a
fine.
moment?
I thought, something I'm unfamiliar with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that, so, just to be, is that within your right of way, or is that, permission you're gonna have to procure, or is that?
We'll have to procure that through DCR.
Yeah, there are a number of moving parts and
Sounds like
boxes
it.
to check on this one. But we wanted to certainly appear before you informally to just sort of introduce you to the project. Obviously, you know, you're probably going to have some more comments when we file the application, but we wanted to know if there's anything in particular that stood out for you. One of the things that stands out for me is the fact that since the property was abandoned, 13 years ago, however it's been, you do have some scrub vegetation that's come up through the historically altered areas. Some areas do have topsoil, some of them don't. Obviously, we're going to need adequate access around these structures in order to properly demolish and dispose of the material. Thinking ahead, this is also part of a longer-term redevelopment project where, at that point, where we're going to be talking about landscaping and trying to fit the development within the previously developed riverfront area to the extent that we can, things like that. So it is unique in a sense because of that.
To follow up on that, Steve, do you remember, I think Robin Street is the last time we talked about a tree survey?
Yes,
And
that's
was it-
correct.
Was it surveyed over 4 inches or 6 inches? I can't remember what that.
Actually, it was
count.
153 Hillside. That was the last time we talked about it in the field,
Okay.
and that was surveyed over 4 inches, that's correct.
All right, could you give us a tree survey? Because,
Good idea.
if you're removing trees, and some, you're right, I can tell right from that, some of it's
Right.
just scrub. But
Oh, right,
if you
sure,
could
but
give us
there are
a tree
others that are a
survey.
little bigger.
But also if you can identify down the species, so,
Yeah.
we know what's invasive, what's not invasive, so we can assess what's.
Yeah,
and-
that would be quite the undertaking.
No,
It would be quite challenging.
Understood,
That would-
and just if it's predominantly invasive, or if it's, what are native trees or not, I mean, that,
I've been out there. It's a mixed bag. You do have some native, more of the opportunistic birches and poplars and things like that. There's also Norway maple and some tree of heaven and other things too.
Well, let's say this, what about a tree 6 inches and over? There
That's
probably
what I was
aren't that
thinking,
many
too.
6
If you
inches.
can define
That
the
might-
Define,
That
caliper
might be
beyond.
really
point
nice.
those out for us and let us know if
That's a
they're,
good idea.
Norway's what. There probably aren't that many on this site, That would be a tree that's, 30 or 40 years old, so 6 inches and larger. Point those out.
Well, are you talking about clear cutting there, or
No,
just
I'm
making
saying
access?
a
No, I'm talking
survey.
about now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you talking about a clear cut or just
probably
equipment
have to.
access?
Well, it's equipment access around, around the lagoon, for example, around the tank. Obviously, you're going to have to get some equipment back in here to remove, this section of the building. You're going to have to access it from both sides.
and along the front there.
In general, for the most part, the larger trees in diameter that might be 12 inches, 18 inches are the ones that are actually closest to the river that are in no way will impact the ability for the demolition. Most of the trees, as he described, some of the smaller poplars, quite a number of tree of heavens, a number of weed trees do predominate through this area, and they are less than 6 inches, but all the larger ones are very close to the riverbank. Some are actually on the riverbank itself. And I think we can do that. We can have an arborist go out there and try and figure something out with that.
Yeah, give us an idea, you
Yeah,
know, what you
okay.
have, so we know what we're looking at.
Yep.
And I know you're completely aware of this, but with the asbestos abatement, I know there were some pretty rigorous DEP regs.
Yes.
And, but that'll be of interest to us, and I'm concerned with your debris pile, because if you take
It
debris...
won't be asbestos that will be in the debris
There will,
pile.
there'll be no asbestos across the
Yeah.
railroad.
That'll be collected and disposed of per DEP regulations, and that's actually the first phase.
Okay.
So before any, bulldozers come in here and start, moving debris around and things like that, the first phase is gonna,
Right.
a very clean removal of
We're
that
gonna bring
material.
trailers across the main track with flagmen and all that, and bring the asbestos trailers in, take the asbestos off, fill the trailers there, and get it across. We're not gonna, we can't break up the asbestos small to bring it across the bridge, we can't do that. It's gonna have to be across.
So, I mean, my suggestion would be anything that requires state notice to DEP, if you
Yes.
could also include us, just so
Yes.
we're apprised, just to know what is
Yep.
occurring.
Yep.
And on your map, you're putting in the riverfront, but can you also give us a 25-foot non-disturbance zone? Just a
Yeah,
line.
we can show where that boundary is on the plan, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there is no bordering vegetated wetland. Here, it's just the bank and the floodplain, of course.
Is there anything on the other side of the trend? Is there,
Over
looks
here?
like there's an isolated depression. Might not be flagged, but it's a low point at 39.
We did previously investigate that site.
Oh, you did,
For
on the other
possible
side?
vernal pools, and
Yeah.
really didn't see anything.
Yeah, I walked through here too, and I know Epsilon, looked at it.
Yeah, I just, when I say depression, I mean in terms
Sure.
of topography, not in
Right,
terms
no,
of a wetland
topographic
depression.
depression, right.
Make sure
The
I use the
soils out
right
here are pretty
context.
sandy too, because this is
Okay.
pretty much outwash.
Yeah,
So your groundwater table is gonna be pretty consistent elevation
river.
along with,
Okay.
near the river. But that's something definitely we can look at, when the commission comes out to the site, which is one of the questions we wanted to ask tonight too, is whether or not the commission thinks it might be a good idea to view the site in advance of us filing the notice of intent, or do you want to wait until we do file it? We're not sure if your November meeting might be a bit aggressive for us, because that's only about
That's aggressive.
2 weeks for us to put together the application. But maybe the December meeting might work.
We should take a site visit for sure, but
Yeah.
when we do it, do you want to have the notice of intent in hand?
So to me, it would make more sense, depending on the timing, that we do it when the leaves are off, because I'm betting that come spring and, if the work hasn't occurred by then, it's gonna be a lot tougher to access this site. When vegetation has started to take hold, so.
It's pretty easy to walk around. I mean, these passageways are gravel and,
Yeah.
They're clear, yeah,
it's up to,
Yeah.
it's at your pleasure, really.
yeah.
We wanted to know what
You
your,
want to see it with the leaves on or off? That's really what it comes down to.
It'll probably be easier with the leaves off.
Yes, always is always easier.
So how about November?
maybe a
beginning?
November site visit,
December,
whatever.
Depending on what you.
Maybe December.
Yeah, so we'll just wait for the notice of intent, and then we can schedule it.
Okay, fair enough.
Sounds fine.
That makes sense. Right, any other questions or thoughts? Are there abutters or members of the public that have a question and would like to make a comment? Well, given that, then we will eagerly await your notice of intent, and we, again, thank you for this presentation. It really helps us a lot.
Thank you for your
That
comment.
that was
Thank
a
you for your
good
input.
point.
Yes, and
That's good.
if anyone thinks of anything, or Steve, if you come up with something or have a thought, please don't hesitate to reach out and,
And if you have further questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
fair enough.
Okay,
Thank
how's
you.
that?
Well, there is a question that, I'm sure somebody in the public would normally ask, and you don't have to answer it, because the notice of intent is the demolition one.
Right.
But do you have a concept plan for what's coming?
So one of the things we did do is we did work with the planning board back in 2005 and 2006, and the planning board had proposed some zoning that was adopted by the town annual meeting that would allow for up to 89 units to be developed on the site. So in a longer-term sense, that's what we're working on. There's some issues that we're working through with both DCR and MBTA, but we're not ready to proceed on that front, perhaps a little further down the road. But that's the longer-term goal. And It would be a component of affordable housing on the site and public access.
And canoe launches.
That's good.
Put a compass with north on your, I didn't see it, is it there? Someplace.
North is pretty much straight up.
Yeah, right here.
Okay, so
Oh,
just
yeah,
add
so
that
north
the
is
next
after.
time, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
okay.
And just a suggestion to inform the Neponset River Watershed Association of what you're doing as well. They'll be
Yeah, that
very
is a good
interested.
suggestion.
Yeah, they'll be very interested to know what's going on.
So we could notify them as we notify the abutters, for example?
Perfect.
Okay.
That would be
Yeah.
helpful, and
Yeah,
they'll
we-
love the canoe launch part of it.
Yeah.
I love the
We-
what?
we met
Oh.
with-
Canoe launch.
We met with them on a number of occasions, so we'll certainly do that in
Great.
person.
Just keep them in the loop.
Yep.
That's
Okay.
all.
Sounds good.
Great.
Thank you.
With that, we
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Now, next on the agenda is number 4. That's a notice of intent, 123 Granite Avenue. That's the American Legion Post?
Great, thank you.
Hey, welcome.
Welcome. We should be watching the Red Sox right now. Should be on the wall over here.
No comment.
It was 2-2 anyway, but I don't know what it is now.
Thanks.
How you doing? My name's Jim DeSalle from DeSalle Burke Soller and Associates.
Paul McDonald?
John McDonough.
Welcome
With the
all.
Legion. We're here to, the point of it is to take care of the enforcement order, and we would like to permit the existing cabana that's there now and the relocation of this covered patio. The existing cabana is almost 85 feet from the resource area. The new relocated covered patio will be just over 85 feet. As you see, the patio is over the line and touches the 25-foot no disturb zone. And there's a trailer here that we're planning on moving off-site to, it's something in this area. I don't know if it'll be that way or this way, but something well outside the 100-foot buffer zone. Excuse me. We propose an erosion control during construction, and any area that's disturbed will be reseeded. What's out there now is a lawn area, and it was a lawn area prior to, back, at least I know back from when we had proposed in 2010, the new hall. Not much has changed out there except for the construction of these couple of structures.
Excuse me,
There's-
just to orient myself, the big flagpole, can you show where that is on the map?
Flagpole's right here.
Ah, okay.
The building, the existing hall is here. There's a fenced-in area across here, and then there's a little bit of a landscaped area over here. So this area, it's a little difficult to see. You really have to jockey around.
And we walk to the west of that, right, John? We walk closer to the,
Yes. By the tower?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the tower's over here.
yeah.
And there is another wetland
When you said-
area over there, but we,
The tower, you're talking about the north of it. When you said west, that's the area that we've actually walked before several times.
That's right.
That's closest to the highway.
Yes, that's what I was talking about.
that's this area in
We
here.
we looked at a detention basin in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. That's what I meant, I'm sorry.
And whose detention basin was that? Do you remember? Was that Mass Highway?
It's Mass Highways.
Mass Highway.
Yeah, I flagged it.
You did? Did you really? So that was one of my questions. You're not across the street.
No, it's on the same side,
It's on the
right?
same side.
It's the
Same
same
side,
side.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
on the
highway.
same side.
But I had asked it because I recalled it.
It was for the
I had
DOT
called for that,
facility.
but we didn't have, I got some maps today, but I didn't get.
Yeah, it was
that
kind
one.
of turned around, that's why I asked, yeah.
Yeah, no, here, north this way, the town yard, or the state yard's over here, and the golf course is over here.
So can you, this is easier to look at. This is a 2012 plan.
I flagged it before that. That was way before that.
Because that seems to line up with the wetlands delineation on this plan.
It was done by the same guy.
You
But,
were walking along.
Yes,
That's
you
where
are
we were.
correct. That's why I was looking for the plan that showed
Yes.
where the detention
Yeah.
basin was going. And I didn't know if, I couldn't remember, I thought it was Mass Highway that
We-
we actually filed a plan.
No, we proposed and got the superseding order of conditions for the, I believe, for the
I flagged it before.
the new hall, and there was a detention basin going in here.
Oh, that's what, okay, all right.
That's what, is that what you're talking about? We were planning on putting in a detention basin on the other side of the easement. the
Yes,
water
that's,
easement.
that's correct, and that's what I
That's
recall.
for the old hall.
That's
that was when we were
That was gonna be
proposing-
demolished and you were
We were gonna tear this hall down and build a big one. That
Yes,
was
okay.
back in Al Thomas's days.
Okay, because I was trying to find the plan for the detention basin, I couldn't find it, but that's what I remembered.
Because it was never built.
Right, the dog,
Okay, no, that was back for the old, for the new hall that never,
never happened.
Never
Okay.
happened.
All right. Understood.
I can send you those plans, I have them.
So the flagpole's over there.
It's right here. It's in the middle of this.
Okay.
But are you talking about the cell tower?
No,
It looks like
no,
a
I meant the
flagpole, a big
flagpole.
one?
The one in front of the,
In front of the
Yeah.
building, yeah.
Yeah, no, I meant the
That's
big
good.
tall flag with the flagpole. And Hans just pointed out where it is. Yeah, I was just trying to,
There's another.
for the cell tower. in there.
The cell tower has a big flag on it now too, so it can be
Yes, it does.
confused.
You were correct.
the big white cylinder,
Yes.
big white cylinder.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
Is it a
yeah.
monopole?
Coming?
Is it a monopole over by the,
Yeah,
The,
it's
cell
a,
tower.
okay, yeah, it's at the monopole.
It's got a-
All right.
You can see it from the highway, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, it's
yeah.
huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's over here.
Yeah, they put a
Okay.
flag, they put a flag on that, last spring,
I know, saw that.
after all these years. But, yeah.
I thought you meant the flagpole that's in front of the building. Sorry.
They
No.
always do something when they want something.
yeah.
That's how that works.
Yes.
They do want something right now, but we'll get into that later.
So again, all of this fill was done probably prior to the construction of any of this. This was, I guess they got, the Commonwealth gave them this land, or they got the land from the Commonwealth, which owns all of this.
Yes.
You know, it's all on the other side of Neritz piece, which was the old railroad bed. So this wasn't filled in by the Legion recently, it was done,
62.
okay, before me.
Yeah.
That's a while ago. So, 50-something years ago. So this has been a lawn, it's been maintained for a while, right up to the fence. So what we propose when we remove this area in here, this patio, and move it over to here, we'll take everything out and just reseed it and regrass it and just keep mowing it like they've been mowing it now. So nothing will change from the fence this side, and then this will just be brought back to the grass that was there prior to this building going in, this structure.
Okay. I had some questions. The wetlands delineation, and you did it for whom? Do you remember, Hans?
No, I did it on the other side for the DOT, so not on this side here.
Okay.
So that was a long time ago. So it's been probably.
On the other side of the tower?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably been reflagged like
We
5 or 10
reflagged
times
it.
since then.
On the, right behind the tower, there's another wetland we did back in 2012.
Yeah. I did it in
Correct, okay.
09.
So can you'll get us that one?
I can get you that plan, and I can get you, and this side, we didn't reflag that side, but we did have Scott reflag this side back in August.
Understood. What I was
And I have a
reading-
report.
What I was looking for is in the area of the detention pond.
Yeah.
Proposed
Proposed detention pond.
Proposed,
Okay.
yes. I know it's not.
I-
I didn't know if there were wetlands in that area, because my memory was, without looking at anything, I thought the line was further north than that. Not where the building is, not where the Heritage
There was
Hall
the
is.
wetlands we had back in 2012,
Right.
and I'll get you the delineation. The wetlands was here, there was the B section, then there was a C wetland over in here, and then behind the tower, over by, into Neritz property, which is a railroad tracks.
Further north,
There's a
okay.
wetland area A, and we didn't reflag that this time, but I can get you that plan that showed it.
Okay.
But it's not-
I just didn't know if there was another,
There was nothing in
100-foot
here.
line. That's what I was looking for, okay.
The only time I saw water in here was when that water main broke
Oh, I'm-
20-something years ago. That was
a lot of water.
pouring up, oh my goodness.
All right. You mentioned in the narrative here, a planting plan for revegetation. You just told us that, but for the record, can you tell us what you're going to do? And
We just, right, prior to this was just a lawn area that was mowed, and that's what we plan on doing, just, in all the disturbed areas, just loam and seeded.
the only issue for us would be, in fact, first on the agenda tonight was going to be the Ocean River presentation, and they're looking for low phosphate, so we'd want some kind of a restriction on, because you're right next to the wetlands. So we'd want some restriction on fertilizer.
So you're saying the planting plan is grass?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't say that.
It's already planted as grass. It's currently grass.
And then that disturbed area was just lawn area before, and that's what we're planning. You can see the fence has been there at the top of the slope to prevent people from jumping over. Well, not jumping, but falling over.
Do you know in the new location for the concrete slab, whether any trees are coming out of there?
No, it's just grass.
Grass.
Because in this, you're saying that there are no trees being removed from the non-disturbance zone, but you didn't say.
None of the area, this whole area here is lawn from the edge, this is the edge of wood line, and this is all lawn, and then this is the slope
Okay.
down, and there's a fence here, so anything in this area here has been lawn for.
Yeah, it's maintained right up to the edge, right? I mean, that's what I remember from being out there.
They mow up to the fence, and then the backside of the fence is the top of the slope.
All right, in the very last paragraph, you say, "It is this office's opinion that the proposed work will not have an adverse impact on the adjacent wetland resource areas by providing storm damage prevention and long-term erosion control." What is that long-term erosion control?
It's the regrassing because it's flat. That's why, it's not like we filled in to level it out and we're gonna be regrading it, so it would be sloping down. Right now, it's a flat lawn. So anything on the slope is already vegetated, so just by, when we tear it out and put the lumen seed in, there won't be anything that wasn't there before.
All right, do you have a construction plan for erosion control during the demolition of the concrete?
Construction plan.
Well, how are you going to protect the wetlands during the...
We have the erosion control surrounding this area here.
Which is what?
The erosion control area, just wattles.
So just to be clear, the covered patio, it's grass underneath, or is it concrete?
It's concrete.
It's concrete underneath, so.
It was grass before they put it in.
And how thick is the slab?
How thick is the slab?
Yeah,
It's 6
6 inches?
inches.
Oh, is it,
Any rebar?
yeah,
No rebar, just wire,
okay.
and there's stone underneath that, 4 to 5 inches of stone.
So you're going to leave the stone and
I would
loam it
say-
over that?
I would say, yeah, it's a good,
6-inch loom over that should be.
You know, this area that you're proposing to just regrass, do you walk in that area? Is it an active area that you need to
Yes.
walk in? It is.
yes.
It is.
That, you know, this, because this is the new plan, this is the old one?
Yeah.
This is the new one, so this is the area where it's going to be regrassed, and that's, I mean, I recall that's what it was.
And it's literally flat up to the fence. And
Yes,
then the
drops
slope is
off.
back up, yeah.
What about the cabana? You want us to sort of, after the fact, permit that. Is there any roof runoff there? Do you have any kind of a,
500 square foot roof just drips into the grass now.
Are there any trees along here, Howard? Any trees?
On the outside of the, on the other side of the
On the other
fence.
side, but not within the grass area?
No. No. Yeah, there was.
You're so close to the river, they're, it's sort of valuable habitat. Is that where you're going? Yeah,
I mean, you
for
know,
water birds and.
plant a couple of
things like
trees
that,
that
yeah.
wouldn't be intrusive. And
does this whole plan require a MIPA review?
Okay, so,
It is ACEC,
yes.
and I think ACEC requires a MIPA review, doesn't it?
If you're actually touching the BVW, yes.
We're just touching the edge of the 25-foot no disturb.
Right.
We're not
If
touching
they're-
the wetlands at all.
The edge of it where? Where are you touching it?
The existing structure
Is at the top of the.
is about
bank.
24 feet from the edge of the BBW, but it's at the top of the slope.
Oh, I got it.
And there's a fence between that. So we're in the resource area here, the no disturb line, but we're not in the wetland itself.
All right, so that's the shaded section under the existing
Yeah,
plan right
the
here.
wetland line's
If they were
here,
in the
over
wetland, they
there.
would also require a water quality certificate. If they were in the wetland, touching the wetland.
We didn't get that far.
Okay. There's a reference here to a stormwater report, but I don't see one. Stormwater discharge report. Where is it? I'll find it in a minute.
It says, it's in the check sheet of the no
Yes.
disturbance. And it just says the proposed project will revegetate the property, mitigating for potential storm damage, which is just the lawn to prevent any runoff.
It's just such a
What page?
wide, flat area, and it is in such a critical area. It would be nice to have just a couple of trees growing along, good trees, you know, oaks and maples.
Trees
Trees, just like 3.
in the
Along by the
yard, in the yard
wetland.
itself?
On the inside of the fence?
Yeah, or just on,
Well,
you know.
at least on your
the other
property.
side.
Well, that's in the middle
It
of the
would
yard.
be, it would,
That's the
you know,
problem.
improve
Yeah.
the property as well, you know, just 3 trees spaced, and it would provide, you know, good habitat for birds and such.
The problem with that would be if we put them here, you're gonna be close to the structures and you're gonna have lawn behind it, so.
Plus the yard is used for wiffle ball tournaments and all town stuff.
Fundraisers,
and
right.
It's all a function area,
We have a lot of fundraisers.
yeah.
It's a function facility as well.
And a tree in the middle of it, it
Well, I'm
wouldn't
not
work.
suggesting in the middle, I'm suggesting on the side, that would
Over by the
eventually
fence.
provide shade, that people, when they were playing, would also appreciate a little shade.
Well, there are trees there.
Yeah, it's
On the other side of the fence. On the other side of the fence is all
Trees on
wood.
the other side, I remember
Yeah.
that.
So
Remember that?
it's forested all around the outside.
Yeah.
The edge of the woods
Over there.
is this
Okay.
line here.
And they're mature trees, okay,
Yeah.
I guess I
Yeah, but I understand what you're
was.
saying.
If they're tall enough.
Page 4. I did tell myself where it is. I have a question for you, and it actually relates to a few times that we've been down there. I don't think this is a big deal cost-wise, but one of the problems on the several times we've been down there for looking at it, we found a lot of trash here, and there's some soil just kind of piled up there. And I know you can clean that up, I think we asked you
Yep.
to, and I think you've probably already done it. But I would, because of the parking area here, is there any way to put a berm there? Just a, you know, a small.
berm?
Yeah, just to prevent the runoff, because you've got a lot of parking here.
Yeah.
And the runoff, it is a fairly sensitive area.
Okay, so you're talking along the back to,
Yes. I know you're not parking in this side,
Yeah.
but my concern is really this area right here.
just in that corner?
Yeah, that's where we've seen some of the problems in the past. Like there was like a pile of dirt, and it had some, it looked like some debris in it, that was in this area right here, and I think you did clean it up.
They took that, you guys took that out already, yeah?
Yeah. But I was noticing here that because it's so close to a pretty sensitive area, any kind of a berm along here, whether it's even
Earth.
atom or earth
What do you
or
mean,
something.
asphalt berm or something like that?
Well, I don't know what the best,
Oh.
best management practices would be. Hans,
Probably
you-
not asphalt.
something to
You're gonna
stop the
create a
flow
puddle.
from a. what's
Yeah,
that?
it depends on how the parking lot's created and what the existing,
Grades
so,
are-
yeah, and if there's an existing
And I looked at
subsurface
that.
system.
Is there erosion? Like, I didn't notice that. There's not like
No, I can't say that there's, I saw signs of erosion. there.
we can look at that and see what we,
Yeah, it's not a big deal, particularly if it's not an existing problem. When we were there before and we saw like a pile of dirt.
Yeah.
It looked like any kind of a rainstorm, there's gonna be runoff
Wash it
from
off,
that.
okay.
And it may have been corrected, it may have been corrected by removing the soil from the pile.
Yeah.
But if you could just take a look at that
Okay.
and give us your advice
maybe-
on that.
Or to have some signs that say no dumping,
Okay.
something along those lines.
Tried.
that-
We tried.
At least to try, yeah,
There,
an effort to
there
prevent.
is signs there, but
There
they're in
is.
the bushes now.
Yeah.
It's overgrown.
So we can pull them out.
Yeah.
Potentially
We
some
don't,
bollards or
surprisingly,
something
we
to
don't
prevent
have
people from driving
very
back
much
into that
dumping
area.
there. You know, it's surprising that we don't have it, you know,
What's that?
much dumping. They
Yeah,
only
well-
leave, they'll leave a television once in a while,
Yeah,
you know,
You can't get rid of those things.
no. But, we don't have very much at
You bring
all.
them to the
Yeah, I know.
DPW once a month,
Yeah.
you put a $5 sticker on it.
yeah,
They take them.
Because there's usually people there till probably 11 o'clock at night,
yeah.
you know, which, and the only time that's open for them to dump anything would be 11, you know, in the morning. And there's someone there early in the morning too, so there's only a short window to dump there.
Yeah.
On the 500 square feet of the roof, does that require any kind of a designated discharge area?
I don't
I know 500 feet is not a
think so. I
lot.
would try to, just put in some kind of, stone,
Around the edge.
yeah. No, I
You mean
mean,
just a gutter?
if you're gonna have any
No.
downspouts, just collect it.
Well, you don't have downspouts on that.
No, nothing.
No, just,
No, it's
so,
just, so it's evenly dispersed, so
Yeah.
there's no erosion around it now.
I mean, it's a very small amount, and it's all going right to grass.
Yeah, it goes right to the grass, yeah.
Okay, if it's not an issue, I'm not
Okay.
looking to make an issue out of it. I just want to make sure that it doesn't create an erosion in that area. And that's the same reason I brought up the berm. All right, well, maybe you could look at it, if it's going to be an earth berm, and it may be just a simple fact of, piling up some dirt there and planting grass.
Okay.
And that would prevent any kind of runoff into this.
And that's easy enough to do
backyard.
when we're seeding the other.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. All right, those are my questions. Any other questions?
So from the back of the cabana, is that all gonna remain the same, or are you gonna try to extend the grass? Or is the
What's
grass
there?
area gonna
It's
stay?
there.
where it
All
is?
the only area we're hoping, we're gonna pull this trailer out here,
Okay.
and then when we take
Just
this out of here,
shift
we're
that.
gonna redo
Okay.
that, and then
Back on property?
that's it. Yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna still use it.
Yeah. Adverse possession.
Yeah. It's the state, I don't know if you
And
do
if
that.
Can't do
the
it.
commission will pick up the cost for moving this thing
Yeah.
too, a part of the cost, is that correct?
The commission.
Because we highlighted the issue inadvertently.
We've got less money than you guys. And no land.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions from commissioners? Is there a consensus here to move to issue the order of conditions? Are you comfortable with the revegetation to grass? I know you asked a number of questions about it. I am. I'm not setting you up, because that's what it was before.
Well, as long as there's trees on the other side.
There are, yeah, along the fence line?
Vegetation.
Show you, if you look at the area, I
Yeah,
mean,
there-
it's
It's
all
all
tree.
I'm comfortable, then, that's fine, sure.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind seeing some sort of earth berm on the plan.
Oh, yes,
Yep.
yeah. That would be good. So can you add that?
Yep,
So we can make a conditional vote, conditional upon adding the earth berm to the plan?
and I'll get you the report from Scott Morrison.
A report from Scott and a file number.
Oh, yeah, we need that too.
Yeah, so this is actually a
We can't
conditional
issue.
vote, because we can't issue anything until you have a
Can't
number.
issue until we get a file number, but you could take a
Conditional vote.
conditional vote.
Yes. And one of the conditions is that you get a DEP file number.
Right.
Simple enough.
Okay, my husband's telling me that Jackie Bradley Jr. just got a grand slam.
Nice.
right.
Oh, is that right?
Really?
Nice.
Thank you for
Wow.
the information.
Yeah, really?
Against Houston pitching, that's pretty darn good. They scared me.
All right, so with our usual boilerplate conditions, and those are just so that you're aware of what they are. You can't store your equipment within our buffer zone. Like if you needed to have trucks to haul away the concrete that you're breaking
Take it
up.
out with a Bobcat.
Yeah, okay. But you just can't store it overnight, because I don't know how long this will take. I don't think it'll take
It
long.
will go right out in the dumpster, yeah.
Okay. But you know what I'm talking about? I'm not talking about a dumpster. I'm talking about equipment that is either, gas-fired or, oil or hydraulic hoses, things like that.
the 100-foot buffer.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
you can stay in the
Parking lot.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
So with that, is there a motion to issue the order of condition? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. good to
Thank
go.
you.
All right, thanks.
Very good.
All right. Thank you.
Go Red Sox. You guys all done now, too?
No, no.
Oh, not quite. No.
Right.
Oh, having a good rest of the
Did he say what
Thank you.
inning?
What's that?
Did he say what inning we were in?
You didn't.
Okay.
Okay, I think now we jump to number 8, which is the enforcement order at 1421 Canton Avenue.
Yes.
Do you have an update on that? I know that we received information that the homeowner had retained Brad Holmes
That's correct.
as an
And that's,
environmental consultant.
that is correct, and that's the only update we have to date.
All right.
We haven't heard from Brad Holmes. If you would like me to call him or to contact him, I'd be happy to do that.
Yes.
I'd
To
be
to
happy
make sure
to.
that he's actually been retained and is up and running, is going to come in with a plan.
Yeah.
I don't want to continue this too long. We need to keep it on a fairly tight leash.
Yes. She emailed me because I had forwarded the,
Oh.
per her request,
The
the
rest of the, thanks.
videos.
Oh, yeah, thank you for doing that.
And she asked if I had any suggestions, and I said it would be highly beneficial if she kept the Conservation Commission updated as to the status of what's going on, so.
Right. Well, there should be some motivation for the homeowner, because we did vote a fine
Yes,
that, is accumulating. It can be remitted,
Yep.
but it doesn't have to be. So we want to keep the incentive
Yes.
going and moving along.
They did come in the last time, so they were here.
Yes, they were.
Yes.
Which is, that's a good thing. All right, so we'll continue that. Why don't we put it on the November meeting list? And the next one is a notice of intent, 71 Forest Street.
Yes.
And because we did not have a quorum at the site visit, can you act as a subcommittee? And you were there. You were not there. Who was there? You were
I
there.
was there, yes.
Good, were you
And
there?
No.
Arthur was there.
And Arthur? Yes. Well, as a subcommittee then,
One.
since we're on a quorum, can you give us a report on,
I-
this is
I
a septic
think-
improvement?
Yes, and it was only running the line across the property. The septic has been installed. It was a question of bringing in the line, and this was planned for several years. It didn't involve taking down any major trees, and it seemed to make a lot of sense to take the effluent off of the cesspool that they're currently using, that's been there 100 years, and to allow them to connect up to the new, what kind of system was it, Steve? Sort of state-of-the-art, right? This
I'm sorry, I do not
septic.
remember.
The engineer was there that day and explained it in quite some detail, and it sounded
I might
like,
have written it down, but I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure
don't-
if I did. Peter Lyons, the engineer from Collins Engineering, was there. And I wish I could read my writing.
yeah, and where,
And there was no blasting either.
right, the old cesspool is actually fairly close to a wetland boundary. And this one is at least 100 feet away from it, so it's a much better location.
And I should add that the wetland was properly and appropriately flat.
Yes, yes. There is an intermittent stream that runs through there.
Who says it's intermittent?
Well,
It was completely dry when I saw it, as
Yeah.
well as when we saw it.
it was,
But we don't want to declare that an intermittent stream. based
we
upon
don't,
that.
we don't do that.
About 3 weeks before we went out there.
Do you have a picture of the Boston Globe with the appropriate date?
At any rate, I don't think we need to reach.
We can note that there's water that flows there often because of the scouring of the channel.
And we don't need to reach the issue one way or the other. Certainly bordering vegetative wetlands. I would recommend that we approve this. It's certainly an improvement for the water quality in that area.
And the Board of Health has approved the Denver perk tests and everything in order?
Health is all set with it, yes. The septic, the leaching field had been there for about 10 years.
Yeah.
So they may need a small amount of work just to attach it to the leaching field.
I think we were out there together, John, about.
Oh, yeah, I've been here a
Same
lot.
homeowner, she's been there
This is the old
30+
house,
years. Yeah.
right, and then the drive keeps going down to the new houses. Right, I'm familiar with the area and the house,
Yeah, and the barn is here, it's right on the road.
right. So we had
See,
gone
and
through
is-
this at our
yes,
last
and
meeting.
this is where the old cesspool is located, around this area, quite close to the border.
Where it says decommissioned pump and fill existing leaching pit, right here.
Yeah, yeah, so that'll be just decommissioned.
And then the
it's
new
up
one
here,
is gonna follow the
Up to
line
here, right.
up to this leaching field. All right, and I think the engineer went through it with us
Yes.
when we were here last. And you're comfortable with the wetland lines here?
Yes.
As designated, and Steve, you are as
Yes,
well?
absolutely.
All right.
They
So,
decommission it, they don't take it out, they just fill it, right?
correct,
That's right.
right.
With what, sand?
Yes.
Yes. And that, I believe that's a Board of Health regulation
Yeah, that's
as
what I
as
thought.
well.
I had the
Requirement,
same
actually.
issue in my property years ago when I bought it.
So with that report from the subcommittee and having heard from the engineer, are there any other questions that we need to address?
I don't believe so.
With that, is there a consensus that we should issue the notice of intent?
So moved?
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor? Wait, you have to wait.
Right on cue.
All right, I think we just had the motion seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye, unanimous. Thank you very much. And next on the agenda is number 10, which is 92 Parkwood Drive.
It's actually corrected to 94 Parkwood
94,
Drive, number one. On number two, I believe Kathy heard from the applicant who said that he might be here to talk about the tree issue tonight.
Is this?
However, I was out there and it looks like the grass is stable. It's reached the 75% performance standard. Of that, there is no doubt. The soil is also stable. I would recommend that you provide them a certificate of compliance, and if he wishes to deal with the trees at some later date, to deal with it later.
That's fine with me.
That would be my recommendation. I mean, we've heard from the gentleman
That makes
for
sense.
4 meetings that he said he would be here, and he hasn't been.
Right, and you've inspected it how many times?
I've inspected it maybe 5 or 7 times, at least. And finally, just this past week, it finally
Well, with
reached.
all the rain we've had this fall, all of the lawns look fabulous. It's
Exactly.
Amazing, so
Exactly.
finally it took hold.
All right, so his request, this is a certificate of compliance for the original notice of intent to upgrade the septic system,
That's correct.
which we allowed him to do. So now, the only thing we're considering is whether or not we should issue a certificate of compliance that is in substantial compliance with the order that we issued.
That's correct.
And what we're not considering is his, I guess, request to amend our order of conditions to allow him to cut the trees, which we never did.
Right,
So he does not have permission to cut the trees,
right.
but the
Has
only,
he withdrawn that request?
There's been no action
there's been no
for
action.
many months
Okay.
without any other further requests or
So there was no
additional
formal
information.
request, was there ever a formal request to
I think
to amend?
It was an email request, as
Oh,
I
okay.
remember.
He was here.
Yes.
I mean, we've had it on the agenda so often. He was here and requested, and
That's
that,
right.
and we said we're gonna go out and take a look because
Right.
that would be a significant change to the order of conditions that was issued, which was only for the upgrade of the septic system. So as a consequence, he would have had to have filed a new notice of intent, or have us vote that it was an insignificant change and we could revise
right.
the order of conditions, which we did not do. So the only thing before us is this certificate of compliance for the septic upgrade. Right? So I think we would be safe in approving that based upon the
But
reports
should
that
we
we've
make
received.
note of the fact on the certificate itself that it does
It-
not include any cutting of trees? So it's clear?
Sure, I mean, that's
Let's do that.
easy. We
Yeah.
could do that.
And you might want to take a vote with regard to whether the cutting of trees would require a new notice of intent. That would make things very clear, I think.
You are correct. Is there a motion to, I guess, pass a resolution that cutting the number of trees that he had informally requested that we do would be a significant change to the order of condition and therefore would require a new filing of a notice of intent?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? That's done. All right. And now, having moved past that, is there now a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for the original notice of intent allowing the upgrade of the septic system?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? All right. Did you get all that, Steve?
Who seconded? Hans, thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was number 10. 11 and 12 have both been continued. Number 13 is a request for certificate of compliance 101 Neponset Valley Parkway.
And I took a look at the site. I've got photos if you wish. That also looks great with the rain. The grass is wonderful.
All right, and that was the only holdup, wasn't it?
That's
Whether or not
correct.
to stabilize.
The only issue on the site, stabilization.
We've been to the site, we've considered the project, and we've got the attestation from the engineer saying it's in substantial compliance with the order conditions.
Yes, we do.
With that, is there a motion to issue the order? That is the certificate of compliance, not an order.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
You look like you have some questions.
I have not seen the site. I'm going to abstain from this. I'm not familiar with it. I don't think I've seen it.
This is the one right on the corner
Right
of...
on the corner.
I
Oh,
thought
the
you were
one
here.
on the corner.
Yeah, you were
Oh,
there.
I was there. I'm
Yep.
sorry. Excuse me. I forgot.
Sure.
Fine.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's really remarkably, if I may,
Yes?
it was remarkably changed in 1 month's time. The amount of grass that was growing there and stabilization had been taking place. Remarkably changed. It was sort of like almost across the street with Mr. Yakowski's site.
Yes.
At 1078. Same thing.
That's right.
Yeah, good news,
Right.
good news.
It's always nice to have some good news.
It is indeed. All right, so with that said, all in favor of issuing the certificate of compliance? Unanimous again.
Should let you folks do some signing before you disappear.
Well, we've got additional business.
Well, I'm still wondering how Henry's is coming. What's the status,
I
just to
was-
keep on top of
I was
it?
out there a few hours ago, and
Ain't nothing out there.
remaining on the site,
There's nothing there.
actually,
I
there
took
are
pictures when they were
three
busting it down.
steel girders, vertical girders, and they are just north of the existing, there's still an underground storage tank on the site.
Oh,
I
it is
believe.
still up on Elliott? As you go up the hill?
No, the storage tank is down by Central.
Yeah,
Oh, it is.
But where are the steel girders that you're
Another
talking about?
They are just north of the storage tank itself, the
Oh,
underground.
they're still
storage.
standing, they have not been removed?
Just the three of them, and they're only, less than 4 feet high.
Okay.
So the tank is in place
The
still?
tank appears to be in place, at least the cover for the
Hasn't been.
tank, the covering, the concrete cover is still there on the site.
Yeah, it's usually the last thing that comes out.
Exactly. So otherwise, the site is pretty clear. It's open, the soil is, exposed. And from Central Street side, the fence has been moved to the edge of the sidewalk, to the property itself. The property is dug down below the sidewalk, so anything that flows from any heavy rainstorms is caught. The same condition exists over by the train station, the tram stop there. They've also kept a concrete wall along just west of the tram stop itself. I'm not sure if that's going to be a supporting wall. It's just nice to have that concrete there to prevent anything from coming onto the tracks.
The trolley stop.
Thank you, trolley stop. I stand corrected.
So I was out there during in the area during a fairly significant rain event, and there was nothing leaving the site. So it was,
That's good.
the way it's been managed,
Yeah.
from what I've seen so far, has been done very well.
Yes, I would agree.
That's good.
I agree too. We were expecting such,
Noise.
we were expecting noise and dust and complaints.
some more signature.
That's-
Yeah, they're
I
on
think
top of
they
it.
did a really good job. I mean, I go by there every single day, and I thought that it was well managed.
Okay. And there is, just to give you an update, there is some attention being paid to the removal of the tanks.
Yes.
Because they're actually looking forward to
It's
the
Forest Street.
development.
Okay.
Yeah,
But I think the position of the town has been that you've got to get the tanks out first. Or
they'd
at
have
least it's
to. I
part
mean,
of the
that's
process.
not really
Here we go.
an option, I think.
You are correct.
DP,
You should
I think.
sign that.
Right, and it's actually part of our order of conditions that the, DEP be notified, and there shall be full compliance with the DEP regs. We're to be given notice, as is the fire department.
Yeah, the fire department approves the tank room.
Removal.
No,
Yes,
The
they
the
were-
question's gonna be is if there is contaminated fill, how much has to be removed? And there's a replacement component in order to get DEP approval.
Yeah. I mean,
So
the-
somebody's gonna watch to see,
UST
the tanks is
regulations-
one thing.
Yeah, they're gonna have to take sidewalls and base samples after.
Sign that one.
So there's a sampling requirement
Oh, 94,
associated with the tank
okay.
removal. It's done probably about 30 of them, so.
Not sure if I can find.
Which one is this?
This is 101.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully they're just
Okay, yeah.
Now, we
following
have,
the process.
I find in the package, an order of conditions for 94 Parkwood to sign. I would imagine you would have signed that quite some time ago.
Yeah, quite a while ago.
Okay, so I will ask
It's
Kathy.
not signed? There must, it's somewhere. I hope.
I hope so.
Everything needs to be somewhere.
In fact, we might want to take a look in the file right there. Do you have 94 Parkwood in front of you?
Yes, I think it's here.
We could take a look and see if the order was signed in that file, if you don't mind.
You sign that, and I'll look here.
I'm sort of surprised it's in this particular package. Unless it was never signed. It would have had to,
It
Signed,
was signed on May 17th, 2017.
thank you.
Ingrid, Judith, Arthur.
I will note that to Kathy. Thank you.
And I signed it.
Yeah.
Is that your signature?
Yes.
I thought I had seen it written different.
Yeah.
But it's right here.
Great, thank you. We had, if you'd like to go to another piece of additional business, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We had a request from Mr. Marcus, Mickey Marcus of SWCA now. He's not New England Environmental anymore. He sold out to SWCA, a larger company. But in any case, DCR is requiring Pulte Homes to provide roadway improvements at Unquity Road and Harlan Street. There are no wetland impacts, but buffer zone trees along the roadway side slopes will be cut in several areas to provide improved safety and better sight lines. The wetlands are located along the toe of slope on the south side of Unquity Road. Unquity goes north-south there, so it's,
Who's filing the application?
so no wetland alteration proposed.
Steve, I'm sorry, could you read that again?
I'd be happy
to. Okay.
Sure. DCR is requiring Pulte Homes to provide roadway improvements at Unquity and Harlan. Okay, there are no wetland impacts, but buffer zone trees along the roadway side slopes will be cut in several areas to provide improved safety and better sight lines. The wetlands are located along the toe of slope on the south side of Unquity Road. No wetland alteration proposed. Okay, so those are the assumptions. Pulte would like to file an RDA for the work on this road intersection, and we want to make sure that this type of filing would be acceptable to the commission. I would appreciate your advice. The plans have been reviewed and approved by DCR.
I'm recusing myself from that one.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And then it's additional business. You can't vote on it because it's not on the agenda.
Right, this is just an advisory. He's asking for some advice from the commission, whether he should file an RDA or a full notice of intent.
I can step out.
Yes, I'm very sorry, I should have remembered that, John,
All right.
and not have
I shall disappear.
confused the issue. So would you folks like to
My
comment?
suggestion would be is if he provided a very clear scope of what the work will entail.
Yeah.
Roadway improvements is a very generic term.
Yep,
That
Is
would
that
allow
that
for a
little
lot of.
triangle where there's like a little dam and
That's
where the
correct.
the little fish thing that goes up and down?
Yeah, where they actually
But
did some
that's quite a
dredging.
bit south of there. This
Yeah,
is
it's
the
Not
further-
much,
entrance.
it's a little bit south, not quite a bit south, don't you think? That's what I'm trying to
I'd
figure
say
out.
it's an eighth of a mile south of there. The Pulte entrance is quite a bit north of there. I know, I thought it was
Well,
gonna be,
But you
But
just
yeah,
said
it's
the,
like-
at
it's
the,
there,
they're talking about
Harlan's
at
and-
the intersection.
of Holland and
So
Unquity.
DCR is requiring some additional mitigation for traffic improvements. That's not
way
at.
down
at-
there. Is that where the?
So that's what I'm thinking, that's that little triangle.
Yes, about an eighth of a mile away, I would say, you're right,
Wow.
right.
That's not uncommon for, if there's,
Oh, sure.
because they're gonna be adding traffic volume there.
Yeah.
So, they'd have to do some improvement
Yeah.
potentially on the other side. So that's
There's
just
a lot of
been,
wetland right
And the
there.
neighbors are not gonna be happy about that at
so that's
all.
also just recently been improved for fish
Right.
passage
Oh, that's
quality.
Right,
Yeah,
So-
yes, at the dam, right, yeah. I think we need a notice of intent. I mean, if you're taking down trees on a public road, I
In the
think
buffer
people want to
zone.
be, people want to be informed. It doesn't sound good, and it may be
Well-
necessary, but I think a lot of people will, want to be informed about it and have an opportunity to speak up.
Yeah, I'd
So,
sure.
and this development is long-term, it's not like time is of the essence. They're just on the first house, really. There's lots to be done there. So I think I would want a notice of intent.
Do you folks concur?
Yes.
Okay, I can just report back to them, there's a consensus
Yeah.
on the
Put it on
commission.
the agenda for November if they can.
If
do
they
it.
can get their
Yeah.
application, that there is a consensus for a notice of intent.
So way down there they're doing it, huh?
Right,
Yeah,
this
I
was a
thought-
DCR requirement.
I see,
Yeah,
supposedly.
that's fine.
I'm always a little concerned, it's almost like little hearsay, like, well, they said that we have to do it, and it's like, well,
Well, I'm sure that was a condition of getting the curb cut onto the DCR road.
I see, yeah.
I should tell you that I had a short discussion with Mike Rosati after our meeting on the Saturday, a couple
Yeah,
of
we
weeks
walked
ago.
the site the same day, Arthur and I did, and Steve.
And he asked me the question just as we were finishing. I don't know if you were still there or not, Judith.
I may not have been, yeah.
But he said his suggestion was not to keep it, not to make an addendum to the current notice of intent for Milton Woods because it was so far away. That was his recommendation, and I said, I think you're correct on that.
Yeah,
would
that
be-
shouldn't be a
It
single,
shouldn't be a part of
not
that.
associated with that project.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
my confusion, yeah.
Right, okay. So he was okay with that,
Okay.
and that was his recommendation as well. And I said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we talked about a notice of intent at that time as well,
Okay.
just for your information. Okay, so I'm fine with that,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
pass that back, that would be.
I shall, that's very easy to do, sure. And the amount of work is not that much more, frankly.
Yeah, between an RDA and an OI.
Right, exactly, because they're gonna have to put a plan together anyway.
Yeah.
Tell us what trees and where.
It's the notification thing that's the
Yeah.
big kicker.
And that neighborhood is pretty active between, yeah, pretty active,
Thank you. I think that says it all.
yeah.
Did you want to talk about?
Well, we can probably
First of
ask
all-
John to come back. and-
First of all.
But just before he comes back, so we did walk the site, and they seem to be doing a good job with the drainage and all of those areas of collecting water. and-
Yep.
It all seems to be,
Vegetation coming back and, yeah.
Any other additional business?
Did we want to just begin talking about Hans's standard buffer zone replacement tree and shrub guidelines? Have you?
Yes, but we should also comment on the notice that we received from notification on the Dorchester Interceptor Sewer Rehabilitation Project.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I forgot to put that on the list.
All right, yeah, that is, do you want to take that? Yeah, I think they're exempt from our regulation, but this is just notification that there is going to be a temporary bypass that runs along Elliott Street from Central Avenue to Adams Street.
Yes, exactly.
It says they're happy to arrange a site meeting, so maybe
Yeah.
we can try to put something with,
Yeah,
During
all
that.
right?
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea too.
Just so that we're informed and educated as to what they're doing. Do you want to reach out, or do you want Steve to call?
I'd be happy to do that.
Did I read this correctly? Are they,
I don't have the notice, I'm sorry, with me.
You've got
they're
it,
gonna
right?
be using the bike path to run pipe along?
Yeah, it looks like
Is
that.
that, yeah, so, yeah, we should look at it, because again, people will be asking us, what's the thing on the bike path?
Milton, it gets a little bit confusing, but running along, those are that's the trolley line.
Part
Yes.
Dorchester.
And those are the new.
Is this two
condos
of the
that's,
same?
Right?
No, it's not.
Yeah, so
along
There's two different,
here.
where's the match line?
They are
This is all Dorchester now, but you're right, it's gonna run right along with that bike.
The project is rehabilitation, but it's pipelining, so it's trenchless. It's not going to be they're not gonna be building a trench.
No, it'll be
They're gonna be
like
doing
a
it
surface
epoxy.
pipe, it looks like.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
epoxy
And
lining.
it starts at Central Ave, John, so
Yeah.
Central, yeah, okay.
Trying to figure out
So-
where,
So Central goes south,
where bypass.
So this is
going
gonna be.
towards Boston.
Yeah,
goes north.
Yes.
right.
So how does it affect the bike path?
I think it's gonna be running along by the bike path.
It goes
But
right
if
next to
it's,
us.
Yeah,
but
on
if
the
they're,
surface.
but
Is
if
it
it's trenchless, they'll just be setting up at one end.
Exactly.
And then-
There'll be two locations.
So
that's
will
it.
they close the bike path or not?
Well, This is a temporary.
Yeah.
Well, it's right next to the bike path, it doesn't cross over it. It looks
So
like it'll be
I
running
think that's a good
along.
question to ask while we're out there.
Yeah.
That's a question, right? Lots of people use that bike path, including.
Yeah.
But it says,
And my,
it
and
says place
as well
bike
as I
path
did.
along
That's
Acre
where my daughter
Trail.
learned how to dump her training wheels.
But
Mine too.
take a look at the.
I didn't go to work that way.
Second paragraph. In Milton, temporary bypass pumping will be needed between Central Avenue and the bridge over the Neponset River at the town line.
Trying to figure out.
That's not what I meant to be.
I hate these.
Attached.
754. 62.
Oh, it says here, in this area, utilizing the Department of Conservation Recreation, DCR Lower Neponset River Trail
84.
for the bypass will minimize disturbances along the busy roads. So they are putting it on the bike.
Yeah, here's the
Parking
bike
lot.
path, and it's gonna be
189.
like a big yellow
This is Central.
must be-
pipe or something.
So you would
Not
like
be
some more
connected.
information and a site visit?
Yeah, exactly where
Yeah.
it's
That'd be
gonna be
great.
placed, yes.
Okay.
Do you need this, or do you have?
That's the Adams.
I do not have.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where.
Baker thing, right?
Yes, I believe so.
You can take mine. or-
Okay, I'll give Hans his back. Great, sure.
That's what I'm trying to think.
Okay. Did you want to try to schedule it via email?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay. Do you folks have
If
a,
they could do it on a Saturday morning, it would be great. I'm not here this Saturday, but most of them I am.
I'm not here this Saturday,
Yeah, I'm here mostly too.
but otherwise.
Hans,
So-
are you in the area
When? This,
this next Saturday's?
so this Saturday, I can, but I'd have somebody in tow with me.
Okay.
I'm not around this Saturday.
And neither is Ingrid.
I'm not here either.
So why don't we go to next or the following?
Next Saturday,
You're
I
not.
can't make it on.
The
this
27th, oh, okay.
7th is no good for you.
Any of those are good for me, or the 3rd of November, I think I'm
Sure, we're
okay
talking
too.
about November.
JDK, 03 November, okay.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
think so.
And JK, okay. IB,
I think so. I'll have to go back to you.
okay. Oh, okay.
Question mark.
Sure, just email me,
Yep.
okay?
Good.
Good. And Hans, do you know about the 3rd of November? Yeah?
Should be good.
I think I'm good then, too. All right, we'll do this. I'll contact the person and we'll see if we can get out there. Your preferred time is still 8 o'clock or 8:30, Hans?
8:30 would be
8
good.
o'clock.
Sorry. It was waiting. 8 o'clock, good. I will see if I can arrange that in the next few days, okay? Expect an email.
All right, now on to Hans.
Yes. Twist. It's been one of those days. Okay, okay. There we go.
So I just threw that together based on some review of what other towns have done.
Right.
Just to see if, we can try and standardize things and make it
That's a great
clearer
idea.
to communicate for applicants of what the expectation is. I know we've had the response a couple times from, during the NOI process, when we inform them of the policy that, they've asked for clarification, so we figured it.
I just had a question about one of the columns
I'm not attached to any of the information in there, so
Sure.
if there's any changes, if the rest of the
I
board
just
agrees.
have an email. Now, do we have another copy of that, Steve?
I'm
or
sorry, I
not?
did
That's
not.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of them says number of shrubs 3 feet in height or greater, and you have, existing trees to be removed, and you've got 18 to less than 24. So I take it things are going across as well as down.
Yes.
Is that correct? So you would not find a shrub 18 to 24 inches in diameter, that's all. So a couple of these should be empty, that's all. That's the only thing I have there. I think that the 15-foot height for cutting a tree to create a snag is a great idea, to leave it right in there, on the ground. For.
If feasible, yeah.
If feasible, for a
Yeah.
snag. I mean, that's a really, really good idea. I remember when I was taking woodlot management, every acre should have at least one snag.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Homeowners will hate it.
Right.
That's not the intention, but yes.
Right,
I've got one
But no,
that's
absolutely
about
right.
4 feet
Yeah.
high in my backyard that my wife complains about. I said, there's some wildlife habitat there.
Fabulous, fabulous habitat.
Exactly.
And not just wildlife, but, funguses and
I'm
all
watching the
sorts of really
ants.
good microbiota, yeah.
I'm watching
Incredible.
the ants and all kinds of insects spend their time on that 4-foot snag. It's just a gray birch, it's in the middle of the backyard, and I spend a lot of time out there watching it.
I guess my overarching concern is flexibility. We need a standard, but we also need specific elements that then come into play that give us flexibility.
Not mutually exclusive, though.
I think the main one
Yeah,
for me
I think I
is,
did in.
how big is the parcel of land we're talking about? Is it a homeowner with a 1/4 of an acre? Is it a developer with 8 acres? Those sort of considerations.
I think after the table there, I did write in
Yes.
wiggle language, because that's,
Yeah, and in fact, you say, in the event of replacement plantings are infeasible due to site constraints, commission may approve an alternative mitigation approach, including, okay, and then you note where they should be shown as well. So, they could be infeasible on a particular property,
yeah, so,
on a tiny lot.
Yeah.
but I think that the intent there would be for the applicant to make some sort of justification in terms of infeasibility. There's not enough room, there's not enough.
Yeah.
So, but, at least it does provide, flexibility to say, yeah, we're not able to achieve it, but, these are the same numbers that you use.
And then there was a request that Hans had of adding some language regarding tree bank, including how the cost should be calculated. So that's something you probably should take to the next meeting and think
Yeah,
about
yeah.
and consider. That would be the action item for the next meeting, maybe.
Yeah,
Think
that's
about-
something Kathy usually provides the direction on, so maybe she can just provide the
I
direction.
know I wrote back to you.
About the
but
tree sizes, I
I don't
think.
remember what I said. Did I copy you on that, Steve, or everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
About the
I
DBH
just saw it.
breakdowns.
Oh, okay.
And so, again, I'm not
Yeah.
attached
Right.
to,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've said like, an intro, just why we're doing this, yeah. Yeah, that's right, and I said, I don't think we should have any replacement planting be 1-to-1. It should always be at least, 2-for-1, and,
What happened to
And-
3-to-1? I thought it
Yeah.
said 3-to-1.
well,
You
in your,
said 2.
well,
Always at least 2-to-1 is what you're meaning.
yeah, as a minimum, keeping in mind that our 3-to-1 requirement has been largely successful for many years. I'm not terribly concerned about what other towns are doing.
Understood.
Via the Vanguard, I certainly understand that for larger, more valuable trees, more consideration is warranted. Yeah,
And-
so I guess those are my thoughts.
and again, it was just, any modification,
Yeah.
I like the idea of
perfectly fine with.
writing things down, makes sense for you.
Yeah,
Not
How
only
much money
that,
do we
but-
have in the tree bank / tree
No
fund?
idea. Kathy does, but
Okay.
I don't.
And so
Yeah.
that would also probably help us follow that trail by having an understanding of how
Yeah.
the funds are being channeled to what.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
Right, I mean, there should be an easily accessible repository of information, whether it's credits or actual trees or waiting for us somewhere.
Steve, would you mind for the next meeting, could you give us a copy, so we're all looking at the same?
Oh, of course.
So we have
So
it in
get a
front of
status
us.
report on that. Tree
And
fund, tree bank.
maybe
Yes.
my
Yeah.
comments or anyone else's comments if they're, and then maybe we'll come to a decision next time.
Yeah, and so I believe because it would be a policy, it would just require approval by the selectmen. It wouldn't take a,
Well, the bylaw requires town meeting approval, the regulation does not.
and this would be a policy in support of the regulation, so that wouldn't even be
Yeah.
that far. So that's something that,
Correct, okay.
But I like the idea that it seems fair to have it written down so people know we're consistent.
And
This
it's
is our
something that
policy.
you can,
Yes.
you can make it a handout.
Right, if necessary.
MACC is also having, I don't know if you saw the newsletter that was sent just the other day.
I did not.
There is a workshop on buffer zone mitigation that's being
wow.
held in
When is that?
early December, I think I just got the, so there's one in the North Shore that's in November, but,
Is there one on the
So-
South Shore as well?
yes, I think it's in Easton, but I have to find the email. I've registered for it.
Which one did you register? The one in Easton?
The one in, I believe it's in Easton.
Was it on a weekend or a weekday?
I believe it was on a weekday.
Okay.
I can find it.
If you could email it to us.
Yes.
I have that one too.
Oh, here. Buffer zone training. Doesn't say.
Red Sox 8, Astros 2.
Final?
Final score.
It is fun?
Yep.
Wow.
My daughter signed me up for the ESPN alerts.
Yeah.
I would not have
What
done it
time did
myself.
it-
Needless to say, I would not have done it myself.
What time did the game start?
5:09. I just happened to read it.
Precisely.
Sorry. I just happened to read it in the newspaper, in the Times today. Believe it.
So it's December 1 in Easton.
Okay.
Which day of the week is it?
I don't know.
That's okay.
And there's another one in Hadley if anyone wants to head out that direction on November 3rd, but,
Did you say Hadley?
yeah.
Saturday.
Oh, it is,
December
oh, it is on a Saturday, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
It says it.
That's a lot easier, frankly.
Oh, I was hoping I could, my company lets us take volunteer days, so I was hoping I'd get a free day from work, but,
Hadley, that's in the Berkshires, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it's in the Connecticut River Valley.
yeah.
I know that because I was just out at Otis and Tolland on this past weekend, and I'll be out at Otis and
Again?
Tolland next week. Doing solar array work,
Tolland?
Tolland, Mass.
Oh, Tolland, Mass.
Right.
Okay.
There's a tall in Connecticut, too.
Yeah, that's what,
Right. I have two other things to report, if we're done with that.
Yeah.
I visited with part of the board at the Low Estates and chatted with them about their basin
Yeah.
and what they need to do to bring in a notice of intent to do something else than what they have done at the basin.
Nothing.
They actually took down some not Atlantic white cedars, arborvitaes, and then put a fence up, which is really not appropriate. So I gave them some suggestions regarding a split rail fence. They're worried about, people going over the edge, but the edge is 6 feet away from the sidewalk, so I said, it's really not necessary.
Have you been
In
there,
my
Ingrid?
opinion.
on the Lowe's estate? I wonder,
Been a really
I've
long
seen
time.
it years ago.
Oh. Very, very long
I
time.
noted to them all the invasives that were there on that site. Incredible amount of invasives.
Oh,
Right off of Brush Hill, right?
yes,
On
yeah,
Yes, that's correct.
Closest to the Truman Parkway.
Yeah.
I think it's opposite number 5, if I'm not mistaken, the basin there. There's 2 inlets to that basin and 1 outlet. I was very surprised. So it must hold a lot of water at parts of the year. They said they've seen
What sort of invasives did you see? Anything?
Norway maple, knotweed,
Knotweed.
garlic mustard,
Oh,
Asian bittersweet,
oh.
and buckthorn.
It's like the Hall of Fame of
Yeah, really.
invasives.
Yeah,
Usual
exactly.
suspect.
Yeah, the whole range. It was interesting because there were tick seeds in the bottom.
Oh,
You know, the bidens were
Yeah.
right in the bottom of the basin. And there was some willow herb as well there, which I was surprised to see. And they've got some big willows growing there. They look like black rather than weeping willows because
Oh.
they're growing straight up.
uh-huh.
But it's a nice basin, I told them, if they could get the invasives out of there. And they were considering hiring somebody to do just that,
Terrific,
which is great.
yeah.
I think it's a
I
great thing.
thought they had declined to hire their regular person because it was too expensive, and some people didn't want to hire anybody.
Well, the maintenance of the basin was not understood by the members of the board I talked to. They thought they wanted to get all the woody debris out of there, and I said, no, no, no. Leave all the woody debris there in the basin. It's the invasives you want out instead. So there's a lot of education going on.
That's good. But I was concerned that some of the newer residents don't read their deed because it's on the deed, or it's supposed to be on the deed. And I know the initial deeds did carry, the restrictions, the environmental
Sure.
restrictions.
Sure.
And
But the folks, they were very willing to listen
That's nice.
to what they should be doing.
Great.
Very, very willing
Yeah.
to listen.
Good to
So
know.
they would like to come back in at some point when they know when they have a plan. And I said, look, if you want me to, weigh in on the plan, I'd be happy to do that.
Good idea. That's right.
And there was, and also had a meeting with Marion McKettrick this afternoon regarding possible work at 153 Hillside Street in terms of cutting out a portion of the property and putting it into some sort of restriction or easement. We're very at the early stages. We haven't, she wants to develop some information regarding upland on a particular portion of that site. That they
Was
could,
that in exchange for tree mitigation?
that's the thought. We just.
Okay, that was the discussion that we had.
Right,
when we were
so
out
that's
there.
the thought. Okay, just reporting that we had a nice chat about it this afternoon.
Huh. Hey, whatever happened farther down on Hillside with the forestry, taking out trees? Did that happen this summer?
I don't know. That's a
I
really
didn't
good
hear,
question.
I thought I'd hear something about it, and I didn't. He was gonna take out, remember quite a few trees? It
Yes,
was all
absolutely,
conservation.
sure,
You
sure.
did get the
At
okay
3,
from
whatever it
the-
was,
Yeah.
337 or whatever it
Yeah,
was.
it abuts the reservation.
Exactly, directly abuts.
It's- yeah.
I went by there the other day, thought about it, and then,
Yeah, I didn't hear anything more about it.
well, I guess I'm gonna have to go out and take a look.
Sounds good.
Good idea.
I'm happy to do it.
Thank you.
Okay? And/or talk to the forester, the consulting forester, Phil Benjamin. Happy to do that. I'd like to go out there first, though. Thank you for reminding me. Julie.
Okay, good.
That's it?
Wow,
All right.
9:15.
Motion to adjourn?
I believe so.
Adjourn.
All right.
Who seconded?
We're in,
Terrific.
Hans,
Okay.
we are adjourned.